Hi, my name's Billy, I read books and I've read The Vagrant by Peter Newman. And this is the first book in the Vagrant series. It was released in 2015 and it is just over 400 pages long. Now, I got this thinking it was a fantasy book. It's not. It's more of a dystopian science fiction book. And that might be a clue as to the reason why it's a science fiction book, because it's got a review from Sci-Fi Now, despite the fact it's a man with a sword on the cover. So what is this book about? In this book, we follow the Vagrant. And the Vagrant can't talk. He's a mute. So we don't get any verbals or conversations from him. And the book is told in a present tense, which is a little bit jarring to start with. And when we're following the Vagrant, we don't really know what he's doing, where he's going, why he can't talk, why he has a baby with him. You can see the baby on the cover there. And the world starts getting explored and the evil in this world gets developed. And it is an all-encompassing evil. It paints a very, very bleak, dark picture of this world and of this story. And it is dark. It is a grim experience as you are reading it. And to start with, for the first third of this book, I couldn't see any light in it, any brevity, any hope, but that does change. And the reason it changes is not because of the Vagrant himself, but because of the other main characters in the story. Now, this isn't a spoiler in any way, but your main characters in this book there's three on this cover, if you can work it out. You've got the Vagrant, you've got the baby, and you've got the sword. Yes, the sword is a character. There is also another character in this merry band going on this story, and that is a goat. So you have a mute, a baby, a sword, and a goat. Now, have you read a book like that before? Have you read anything in fantasy or science fiction where those are the main characters in a story? I'm pretty sure you've not, which is why you should give this book a go. There are obviously other characters that come along in this story who may play major parts, and it's the interactions between all these characters and how they fit together, because on the face of it, it shouldn't really work. A mute, a baby, a sword, a goat, and these other characters, that should not work, but it does. And this is where some of the hope comes from in this story. So when you're reading it, and like me, I was about a quarter of the way in, or maybe a third of the way in, and I was feeling a bit down with it all, it then started to come together a bit, and I could see where the story was going, and I could see the humanity starting to form and shining through in the world and in the story. Now, one of the tropes that gets used in this to try and explain how the Vagrant came to be where he is, why he's doing what he's doing, why he can't speak, is flashbacks. Now, some people, flashbacks can be a bit of a no-no. It can be a deal breaker sometimes, and that can be the case with me. Sometimes it can work, sometimes it can't. In this, it does work, in my opinion, because the flashbacks are brief, they're short, it's not the main part of the story. It gets to the point of what it's trying to do, and it doesn't detract away from the main story. It enhances it. So yeah, don't be put off. If you hear the word flashbacks with this book, don't worry, it's not a deal breaker. So there are some really cool ideas in this book, some really good ideas. Some of the way that the evil can spread is really, really good, and how sometimes some of the way the evil spreads in terms of how it can infect other people. Those characters who are infected by the evil become characters almost, and that it's very interesting to read. Even though it's in the present tense, it's very easy and enjoyable to read the brief sections of their part of this tale as well. Just to give you an idea of some of the ideas, there's these creatures called bone wings, and what these are, they're rib cages which are grown and splayed out. The wings of skin are stretched between the ribs, and then they're all studded with eyeballs. Now that's pretty pretty gruesome, really, isn't it? And that's the kind of world that this story is set in. There are some hideous, horrible creatures in this world, and I think that when you look on Goodreads on this book, I've given this a 3.5. The average rating of 8,000 ratings so far is 3.66, which is a bit of a low rating. Normally, you might see that on Goodreads and look to swerve it, but I don't think that's a fair rating for this book. I think, even though obviously I've given it 3.5. But that's only because I'm doing it in a 3.5, 4.5 style. If I was to drill it down more, a 3.8, 3.75, 3.8 would probably be more sufficient. It's not quite good enough to be a 4-star, I don't think, for me anyway. But I think 3.6 is a little bit low. Don't be put off too much by it. I think this book might suffer from people picking it up thinking it's a fantasy book, and it's not. And also being put off because it's just very, very dark at the start. If you know what you're getting into with it, if you know what to expect, if you know this is going to be a dark tale and it's got an unusual set of characters, then you will be fine with it. I recommend you do give it a go. If you are tired of fantasy at the minute, if you are wanting to read something different in the fantasy genre, this will be something that you could give a go, because it's not your traditional tale. And I know I've said it's that dystopian science fiction book, but I think fantasy readers or science fiction readers can read it, because even though it's set in a dystopian science fiction world, it has a lot of fantasy tropes in it, really. I felt I was reading a fantasy story and then got reminded every now and again that it's actually kind of science fiction. It's probably more sci-fantasy. So yeah, give it a go. Am I going to carry on reading the rest of the series? No, I don't think so. This is a self-contained story. I don't think there's any need to read the second book. I've had a look about what the second book's about, and I don't think I need to read it. So yeah, I'd recommend you give this a go if you don't mind something different and something dark. If you do, pick it up, give it a go. All right, let me know what you think. Have you read it? Are you going to read it? I'll speak to you in the comments below. Take care. Bye-bye.